the reunion, and would you introduce yourself?
I'm Ed Wong, one of the people involved with the event this year. Pete and I have kind of been running the show this year, so sort of a new thing, but it's a continuation of stuff that's been going on for a long time. So Pete said it was number 19. I haven't been involved with all of them, but most of them.
So can you give me a little bit of backstory on this?
So, backstory. Way back when, sometime in the 90s, Frank Gibson wanted to have like a melody party. He actually got Matt Pinfield to spin a couple of times. I think there was one or two or three. My brain's a little fuzzy on all the details. You probably have to ask him. They were held, I believe, at a fire hall in Piscataway. So it was kind of a lower key affair. But then sometime around, dates are a little off, 2006, 2005, Frank was talking about having another one, and there were all kinds of ideas being bandied about. I was personally kind of skeptical on the whole thing, but okay, you're going to convince me to go do this. The first one they held, which would have been 2007, if I remember the years correctly, was held over at the Loop Lounge. And that was kind of the first one to kind of see if it would work or not. And it turned out to be like huge. Like people showed up. I think the deal was they got Bruce Ciccone, if I get the name correct, to host the event. And he basically said, look, the bar, it was a Friday night or a Saturday night. The bar's open at whatever. I just opened a little early. You guys can come in and help drink the bar dry. So a couple hundred people show up, and Bruce was like, hey, come back next week if you're going to bring a crowd like that. So it turned into an annual thing. I think Bruce sold the bar. So they couldn't hold it there after 2007. And I believe, and I wasn't privy to all of this. Frank Gibson was doing all of this stuff. I believe Jigs Gigolo, who brings the Melody Bar signboard from the original Melody Bar sign, the lit up sign that they had hanging outside. He at the time was a member of the Elks, so he was like, hey, we could have the Elks Club. So it's been here pretty much ever since 2008. Minus some time in the pandemic.
So when did you start?
I was involved in 2007 all the way up until 2018, 2019. I don't have any notes in front of me. So, and then I left due to differences with Frank, and then he's not doing it, so somebody's got to pull it together. So Pete asked me, and Pete and I have pulled it together.
That's cool. When did you start DJing?
That's an interesting one, right? I never really wanted to be a DJ per se. I listened to a lot of WRSU when I was a kid, in high school, Matt Pinfield, that kind of thing. I didn't really plan to go to Rutgers. I ended up at Rutgers kind of by accident, if you want to call it that way. I didn't get into the schools I wanted to go to. I thought, I'll go to Rutgers for the first year and then transfer somewhere, and I never did. Ended up spending 6 years in undergraduate at Rutgers, and of course going to the Melody at some point. I made mixtapes for my own purposes of having a mixtape, because there was no Spotify in those days, and joined the radio station pretty much from the very first day on campus, because I'm here at WRSU. I grew up listening to it, and all my idols. Got to meet them all. So I started hanging out there and making my own mixtapes, which is not a whole lot different than DJing. And to be honest, I actually started DJing because back in those days, the sports department didn't run the board for the sports games. They usually had a tech guy to run the board. And so I used to sit and run the board for the football games. And the program director, general manager, I'm not quite sure, 40 years ago, my brain's a little fuzzy on that, was like, hey, if you get board certified, then you can play music, because the football game starts at 10:45, so you could fill in from 10 to 10:45, do your radio program, and then run board for the game. So that's kind of how I started. So a little fuzzy on exactly when that was, because I didn't think 40 years later that this would be an important thing to remember. So I believe my first show was like 84, 85. And it actually was on, I started doing an overnight, because you used to have to do overnights in those days. But
that's how we all started.
Right, I started on Saturdays because, what college kid wants to get up on a Saturday morning before the football game? So why don't you fill in this week? Why don't you fill in next week? Why don't you fill in for the semester?
And then you're here now.
40 years later, here I am. You know, I had finished school and had a full career and retired from that, and I'm still on the radio. So, who knew?
That's awesome.
Hell yeah.
Yes, life is comes at you. You don't keep your eyes open and go, what's that Ferris Bueller quote? Never mind.
I know what you're talking about. I just can't think of
Right.
it now.
But it's true.
You're gonna blink and it's gonna be all gone. I'm gonna leave you with one question.
Sure.
What do you want to leave with your legacy?
You know, that's a real good question. I never really spent a whole lot of time thinking about a legacy, perhaps. Yeah. I think to some extent that question is sort of, what do I want to say about me? And I don't really ascribe to that kind of thing. I do things that I like to do, and I get a lot of pleasure out of other people enjoying them. You know, so while this isn't necessarily something that I go, oh, you know, let me do that because I'm going to be remembered for that. I do that because people have a damn good time out on that dance floor.
Yeah.
And there's a lot to be said for that. So if that's a legacy, I guess that is, but it's not something like, I don't go about going, you know, if I do this, I will leave a legacy. I do what I do, and it turns into a legacy. I mean, like the radio on Saturday, right? You know, I didn't set out going, you know, I'm gonna be on Saturday mornings for 40 years.
It just happened.
It kind of happened.
Yeah.
I don't know if you listen to it right these days because of the Melody Reunion, I do what's called Preflux, so it's a lot of melody type songs. But my normal radio program doesn't do that per se. It has this broad spectrum smorgasbord.
Is there any like new artists that you're like?
You know, I'm
Oh my
really
God.
fickle. So, what I've learned is I probably have some sort of, I think the word is synesthesia.
Okay.
Like, I don't listen to the lyrics. I don't necessarily listen to the music. I feel the texture, if that makes any sense.
No, that makes sense.
And so I mix my music based on texture and shifting textures. And it's not like, oh, it's in the same key. Or, I mean, I have some musical training as a background, but I couldn't tell you what key anything was in. But, so I kind of try to go for a stream of consciousness, mood, swing, and I mix by that. But a lot of it is like getting triggered midway through a song, like, oh, that reminds me of this, or it reminds me of somebody who likes this song who likes that. Right?
Okay,
So there's
so
a lot
it's
of that
not-
that goes on as well.
So it's not like, so you're not too much into the lyrics, but you're into everything else.
Right.
So
So I play, I remember, I have a wide variety of musical taste, right? I mean, classical music, opera, big band, jazz, rock and roll, folk, you know, everything. And I used to wonder if the audience would get annoyed at the weird shifts between stuff.